We're waiting for you to.
On the record. We are on the record before the Board of Behavioral Science to review the petition for reinstatement in the matter of Shirin Banai, OAH number 2017-01193. Sorry, strike that. 2017-011093. Agency case number IM-2011-1521. My name is Heather Rowan. I'm an administrative law judge with the Office of Administrative Hearings. I've been assigned to preside over this matter. We established at the beginning of the meeting today that we have a quorum of the board. May I take the appearance of counsel, please?
Thank you, Your Honor. This is David Bryce with the Attorney General's Office. I'm appearing today on behalf of the people of the state of California pursuant to Government Code Section 11522.
Thank you. And Ms. Benai is present. You're representing yourself today, is that correct?
Yes, correct.
Okay. I want to give you a couple of reminders. One about the microphone. I want to make sure that the board can hear your testimony, so you're going to want to speak directly into the microphone and make sure you're close enough. If the board members can't hear you at any time, I'll have to interrupt. The other thing is that before we went on the record, I discussed the proceedings today, before you and the other petitioners. I just want to reiterate, if you have questions about the process, you're free to ask. I can't give legal advice, but I can help with the proceedings. Mr. Bryce, did you want to begin with your history of the matter?
Thank you, Your Honor. First, I'd like to offer mark for identification and offer into evidence as Exhibit 1, the original petition packet with accompanying documents. The board members and petitioner have been provided with a copy of this same set of exhibits. And Exhibit 1 consists of the following. There is the petition for reinstatement of registration, which is dated September 13, 2016. Following that is the default decision and order, which was effective June 20th, 2013, revoking petitioner's registration. Included with that is accusation number IM-2011-1521 that was filed March 7, 2013. Finally, there's a registration history and the notice of today's hearing. At this time, I'd like to offer this entire packet into evidence as Exhibit 1.
Ms. Benai, have you had a chance to review this packet?
Yes.
Do you have any objections to it being admitted as evidence?
No.
Thank you. Exhibit 1 is admitted.
Your Honor, at this time, I can provide that summary of the petitioner's license history.
Thank you.
On or around December 10th, 2003, petitioner was issued marriage and family therapist intern registration number IMF 63596. The license expired for non-payment of renewal fees on June 30th, 2012, and the license was then revoked effective June 20th, 2013. The circumstances are that petitioner was convicted of theft based on a shoplifting incident. Petitioner failed to file a notice of defense and a default decision and order was taken. And on September 13, 2016, petitioner filed her petition for reinstatement of her registration. At this time, I have questions for the petitioner, but I can also wait if Your Honor would like to have petitioner make a personal statement.
Thank you. Ms. Benai, are you prepared to give a statement today?
Yes.
Raise your right hand, please. Do you solemnly swear under penalty of perjury that the testimony you give today will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Thank you. This is your opportunity to give your testimony. Go ahead.
Yes. On the year of 2013, I had a very hard time. I don't know to appreciate those years or just be upset about it. It was a very okay.
Yep. Can you speak closer to the mic and maybe a
Yes.
little bit more slowly as well?
Okay. It's I have to acknowledge that I'm really scared and I'm like shaking. So
That's okay.
That's
If you
part of the
slow
process.
down and breathe a little bit,
yes,
you can take your time.
yes. And year of 2013, I was going through a very painful and transformational time of my life, and that was. I was dropping a divorce case after 9 years with previous husband I had, which I was in a real estate many years before, for 20 years, and I was very successful, and I gave all my commission checks, cashed it, gave it to him, and we had this corporation, or I was under the impression that we both have this corporation, that we have all these properties in it. And later on, I realized that it was all a plan from years before, that he would not put my name on that corporation, and he would put liens against all the properties under his family's names. And I was 9 years in court in divorce, and he set me up, threw me out of the house. And I had a hard time proving that if this is all set up, it's not, none of these things that he's saying is the truth. And all of these with the family court and attorneys, it costs a lot of money. It was in one motion they filed, I had to answer the motion, and it took me 9 years to just play his games. And finally, I got to a point that I dropped the whole cases, even though with the advice of the judge that I should get an attorney, I was lacking funds to get an attorney, because attorneys wanted to see not just $20,000, $30,000, they wanted to see a bank account, a good bank account that they can withdraw from, and I did not have that. And at the same time, I was going through a very close friend of mine, losing him, and being very close to his wife, losing him to brain cancer. And since then, I discovered that I'm very, very much codependent to a faulty. I get attached to people exactly like an addict. So when I noticed that, I started a 12-step meeting on Coda in my mother's tongue, which is Persian, in Encino Hospital, and it's still going on. This meeting is still going on. And his death was very hard knock on my face, like it had to wake me up. I could not lose somebody. It's somebody very close. And since then, I can deal, with codependency meeting and all of that. I can deal with death since I lost my mother just last August, and I'm dealing with it fine. I know that I'll die one day too, and it's not a big deal. But that year, 2013, I also was dealing with a lot of menopause issues. And nowadays, I hear a lot of things in the radio or whatever, that a lot of information that just like when women go through menopause, there are a lot of hormone issues and a lot of problem with like a midlife crisis kind of things, that they do a lot of strange things. And when I reflect back, I see, wow, it was a very hard year for me, because I was dealing with a lot of very bad hot flashes. I could not even sit here for half an hour. I was getting so hot all the time. Since then, I have hormone patches, bioidentical hormones under my skin, so that I can regulate that.
Slow down just a little bit.
Okay.
Thank you.
And I'm taking full responsibility for what I did. I'm not saying it's anybody's blame. It was all I take full responsibility for it. And like I said, I don't know to appreciate it or to say I would do it any different. I don't know if I would do it any differently because it caused my life to change like 180 degrees. And I like that. I like who I am today. That's it.
Mr. Bryce, do you have any questions for Ms. Benai?
I do, Your Honor. Before I do, I would like to make a correction to my earlier license history. I stated an incorrect date, and so I'd like to correct that. Petitioner was actually issued marriage and family therapist intern registration number IMF 6396 on June 22nd, 2010. That's the correct date. Earlier, I had set a date in 2003, and so I just want to make sure that that was clear for the record.
Thank you.
Ms. Benai, I wanted to ask you just a couple questions before I turn it over to the board. One thing I did want to ask you, do you have any criminal convictions that this board is not aware of?
No, sir.
There was a reference in the accusation that was filed in your case, which is on page 4 of the accusation in that packet, and discusses the circumstances of the shoplifting incident which led to your conviction. And one of the statements in there is that the loss prevention agent from the department store recognized you from a previous shoplifting incident. Do you know what that statement's about?
No, sir. And at the time, I was so nervous that whatever he would say, I would say yes, yes. Just let me go. It was like that. So I don't even remember what he's talking. When I was reading it, I was surprised. You know, there is no record of me ever, never, and not even since then.
So I guess then my question is there only the one shoplifting incident?
Just one time, yes.
So there was no previous shoplifting
No,
incident?
no, sir.
Are there any criminal charges currently pending against you in any state?
No, sir.
You mentioned in your testimony and then also in your application that you started codependency meetings in Encino. How long have you been attending those?
Since I started that meeting in February, I believe, of it was 2000 or 13, something like that. I don't
So-
remember. I'm very bad with dates as well. You know, I don't. It's been a while. I think it's
Approximately
been
4 or
like
5
4
or 5 years?
Yes. Yes.
One at a time, remember. Thank you.
If it was 2012, that'd be 5 years.
Yes. About 5 years.
You're still attending those meetings?
Yes. Actually, I'm attending 2 meetings. One in English, and which is on Wednesday nights, and one on Sunday, which is in Farsi.
So that's 2 meetings a week?
Yes.
Are you currently engaged in any other type of ongoing therapy meetings?
Well, since then, I've been attending Landmark Education, which it's used to be known for EST. I don't know if anybody's familiar with that. I've gone through all the curriculum. I also just came back from 10 days silent meditation, Vipassana, in by Joshua Tree. I have done Avatar in Florida with Star Age Company. I have done a lot of self-help classes, and right now I'm in my 3rd year's Course in Miracles, exercises.
Regarding that criminal conviction, did you successfully comply with all the terms of your sentence?
Yes,
How are you currently employed?
I'm not.
Do you have employment plans in the future if your registration is reinstated?
I don't know at this time. I don't know.
So in this case, there was a default decision taken for failure to file a notice of defense, which is a document that would have been mailed to you with the accusation packet. Can you explain why you did not file a notice of defense?
I actually did not know that till after I applied for my intern number. I didn't know it was INDIFA because it was mailed like 2 years after I moved from a place. So I would not have an ongoing address change 2 years to a previous apartment. So I never received the package, and I didn't even know that there was such a thing till I applied to get my intern number, and I realized, oh my God, what's going on here? I didn't even know.
Do you understand that you have an obligation as a licensee to keep a current mailing address on file with the board?
I didn't know at that time, but I do now.
Are you
Yes.
aware of that obligation
Yes,
now?
now I do.
Do you intend to keep a current mailing address on file with the board in the future?
Yes, yes, sir.
There was also a point in your license history, I believe, when your license expired due to non-payment of renewal fees. Can you explain circumstances?
Yes, because I was planning to go, which I did go to get my PsyD. I thought that it's okay if I just let this this intern number go. I didn't know. In my school, when I was in school, I got the intern number, and they didn't really explain to me how I should keep it, and if I want to just even put it on hold, I have to let the board know about it. Nobody told me any of that. So I went and continued with my PsyD program, and it got to the point that I finished all my schooling, but with my defense on my dissertation, I have to finish hours. And it was like, I can't do one board this way and then another board the other way. And it was very confusing to me, and I was lost. So I didn't know that I have to keep on paying for the license or intern number. I didn't know that.
Do you know that now?
Yes,
And do you also know that if you hold a registration or a license from the board, the responsibility to be up to date on your duties and obligations rests with you solely?
yes, sir.
What assurances can you give the board that this conduct, which was shoplifting and resulting in theft conviction, what assurances can you give the board that that conduct is behind you and will not recur?
Well, I think, like I said, I take full responsibility for what I did, but at the same time, it was like a scream for help or attention or something, because it was not, it was a theft, but it was a misdemeanor. It was for like $70, which I had more than that in my purse. So I noticed that I was screaming somewhere in my heart for that, and I have that now. I have a very good support team. I have a very loving husband, and at the time, I forgot to mention, at the time I also realized that my son is a heroin addict, and now he's in 2 years recovery, and also I also belong to Al-Anon for past 7 years in Al-Anon meeting because of my son. But it was that year that everything came out. He was hiding it from me till 2013. And now he's like almost 2 years clean. And I see my recovery through him as well. I see that the more I get recovered, it seems like he gets recovered as well. So I don't think this is going to happen because of right now the life that I have, the life support that I have, the tools that I have to deal with things like that. And like through my education, I learned that because of survival, I totally forgot about childhood sexual abuse through a family friend, which was very adored by my parents to help him. And I noticed that came out, and I realized that I like to do a lot of sneaky things that people cannot find out. And I noticed that is completely related to my sexual abuse because it was very sneaky. And I was abused from age 4 to age 7, and it was consistent. And I think once I know all of these, where the where it comes from, it's much easier to deal with it and to recognize it and to be able to use the tool against it.
I want to ask you, you mentioned a couple of different numbers in your statement there. As I read the accusation, the shoplifting incident actually occurred in 2011, not 2013. Is that correct?
Yes, I'm
And
sorry, I'm
the-
bad with dates.
The amount in question was not $70, it was $109. Does that sound right?
Yes,
All right.
I'm sorry.
There is still outstanding cost recovery from the default decision. It's $2,310. If your registration were reinstated, would you be able to pay that?
Yes, sir.
And now I'd just like to ask, we've talked about past conduct, what you've been doing. Looking to the future, why are you here today? Why do you want the board to reinstate your registration?
I want to clean up my side of the road, basically. I don't want to have any default or negative things on my way for future. I don't know what I'm going to be doing because I'm planning to go overseas. For how long, I don't know. It depends on my husband and his plans, but I don't know what future has for me. But I want to clean my side right now.
If your registration were reinstated, would you be willing to comply with probation terms?
Yes,
You mentioned going overseas. You understand that usually with licenses, you are required to be practicing in the state. Would that be a problem for you?
no, sir.
How long do you expect to be overseas?
Probably between 3 to 6 months. I'm not sure.
Thank you. Your Honor, at this time, I'd like to turn it over to the board for any questions board members may have.
Thank you.
Hi, thank you for coming. I really feel for what you went through in 2013. So many things to cope with, one after another. And I respect you for pulling yourself together and going through it, and being supportive of your son. That must have been a shock.
Yes.
So you've come through that, and I hear what you're saying is that you want to complete this process of cleaning up all that happened to you in your life in that one horrific year. And I respect that. I'm wondering why you chose to do the work to become a marriage and family therapist and on to get a PsyD.
Because I got to a point in my life, I went through my Bachelor of Science degree in 1979, and I decided to go back to school because I was attending some classes of addiction in Pierce College, and I didn't have a plan to become an addiction counselor. I just went to understand it better in education part, not in Al-Anon part. So when I attended those classes, teachers kept telling me to go and continue with marriage and family therapy. I was in real estate. I was making good money. I had my own clients. I didn't have to advertise anymore. And I noticed that it doesn't give me that feeling of being alive anymore. The money doesn't make me happy. And just being with these people in the class, which was mostly were recovered addicts, just talking to them and listening to them, it was giving me life, and which money could not buy. So I dropped my real estate business on the side completely, and I dove into studying and school and becoming a marriage and family therapy. Even though as marriage and family therapists, which all of you are, make a lot less money than in real estate.
Well, I am, yeah. And have you done any work in the community, counseling, in a free position, unpaid?
Just when I was in school for my marriage and family therapy program, and not as a counselor, but as a sponsor, I have worked with Al-Anon 12-step program as a sponsor, also as a CODA, codependency 12-step, yes, but not as a counselor.
Uh-huh. Okay. Now, if you're reinstated, are you going to be motivated, willing to go through the whole process of getting your hours and sitting for a license?
Yes, of course. It's that's what I said. You know, that's what gives me life. You know, that's I'm worth it, because all my life I searched for what is the meaning of life. Why am I here? And I know why am I here. And of course, I want to do this like the way it should be, not the way I think it should be. You know, through the board and through licensing, through letters and all
Yeah.
of that.
Yeah, well, I'm sure you'll learn a few things while you're getting your hours.
Yes. I'm
You have a lot of life experience, but and you can add to that. Okay, I think you understand what you want. I urge you to continue your support groups. You sound like you are motivated to anyway, but you've got, life is challenging.
Yes. Sure
It's
is.
good to have a sport.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, thank you. So do you have a sponsor in either of those
Yes.
12-step groups? And
Oh.
how often do you have it with two different ones, or one with codependency, one without?
Well, basically, I enrolled my sponsor in Al-Anon to come to CODA as well.
Okay.
So it's because the bottom part on Al-Anon is codependency anyway, and it's the basic for Al-Anon. So I enrolled her to come to CODA meetings. So now she can help me, because 12-step is almost the same, even for AA is the same, but it works differently. It's not the same. It's totally different, but the bases are the same. So she can help me in both as well.
How often do you contact her?
I contact her minimum 2 or 3 times a week.
Very involved.
Yes, I am. I'm very involved in my community as well.
So something that really strikes me, you're very interested in personal growth. That's apparent with all the participation you've done. And you've gone to school to seek the MFT licensure, and you've gone to school to get a PsyD, and yet you don't participate in traditional psychotherapy.
Because, you know, I'm at the point of my life, I'm 60 years old. I'm at a point of my life that it's not about education, it's about making a difference in somebody else's life. I went through school this time with my passion, not because it was my parents' ideal girl for them. So it was totally different. And I look at it totally different too. I don't, in future, if I have clients, I don't see them for making money. I see them to make a difference in their life, because they're making a difference in my life as well, once they're in my office or whatever they are. And God repays me. They don't have to pay me. My money doesn't come from them. It comes from God. It might be through them, or it might be through somebody else. So I look at it completely different.
Still, you're not a consumer of therapy. It's like, if you sell Amway, you should probably try Amway, as one of
Yes.
my colleagues always says. So I find that interesting.
Yes, I see that now, that I have to go with some boundaries. I see that now. But prior to filing for my intern number, I did not see that at all.
And there's a lot of I don't know in when you were initially going through this process to seek licensure, not knowing to keep your address, not knowing to renew. I'm a little nervous about that, the lack of rigor in paying attention to the details, and there's a lot of details, I admit, to pay attention to. Give me your best reassurances. 'Cause those are just 2 things of, I don't know, 1,000 that you're responsible for knowing?
Yes, I learned through this process of being here even today. I'm coming from Los Angeles. Is that I cannot depend on what people tells me. I have to call the board and find the answer. So now I'm relying on what the board tells me rather than what people tell me. I used to just keep it very lightly in my head, but now it's, going through this process, even today, I'm shaking and all of that. I know it's serious.
Should you get your license reinstated and go on probation, I recommend you read the statutes and regulations. When you have insomnia, it's really helpful.
Thank you.
But it's important information that you should know.
Yes,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming in.
Thank you.
So just some clarification question first. So have you completed your PsyD degree?
I completed all the classworks, not completed the PsyD program. No.
So you're in the process?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm sorry?
All but dissertation, that's
Correct.
a little acronym.
And my hours,
And your
yes.
hours, okay. So where did you get your master's degree?
Phillips Graduate School.
So that's the private institute, right?
Phillips Graduate Institute,
Okay.
yes.
Now, you talked about, the desire to make a difference in people's life. So in what way you think that you can use your degree, to help people make a difference?
I
What
think,
kind of services?
You mean in what field or what line or?
Yeah, because, let me give you a little bit more information why I'm asking this question. Dr. Brew asked, check in with you about the reason why you're not attending any therapy. And I'm hearing, that, I'm hearing something, some information about, you want to, do classes and, a different type of services that traditionally is a little different than what the MFT would be doing. And that's why I want to check with you to see what your thoughts are, the kind of the career or the service that you would be providing, to help you achieve your goal to make difference in people's lives.
I'm sorry, I don't know where I came wrong to say I don't go to therapy. Of course I go to therapy. Since I started my MFT program that we had to go for 36 hours or 37 hours therapy because of school requirement, I've been attending therapy. I guess because I go once a week and it's been for so long, it's maybe it doesn't come to my mind as much as the 10-day meditation that I just came from.
I see.
Comes. Maybe I missed that in my talk.
You have been receiving individual
Oh,
therapy
Of course, yes, and a group therapy.
and
yes.
group therapy.
Yes.
Okay. So how long have you, when did you start receiving psychotherapy?
When did I started? When I
Here?
started going to my master's degree at Phillips Institute, they require you the first year. It's all about you, and they require you to go through so many hours of therapy before you can graduate. Otherwise, they don't let you graduate.
Right. So do you stay with the same therapist?
I've changed 2 therapists because it was a recommendation from my supervisor to change therapists after like 3 years or whatever.
I'm glad you clarified that for me.
Yes.
So, wonderful. The other thing is about, your participation of codependency. So, how does codependency look like in your situation?
I think the whole thing that first of all, let me clear now that you say about the example of Amway, now I understand. I could process it. And I don't know where I went wrong not to say that or miss that. I think even becoming a therapist or being in this field, it was part of my codependency in a not in a healthy way, through I need them to love me as a therapist kind of way. And going through this process of 12-step, I realized how much I should be detached from that. I learned that through 12-step codependency, CODA. that people pick their career based on, like nurses are very much codependent if they don't go, therapists are very much codependent. I learned that through CODA. And I could become a healthier person, not only in my life, but in life of people close to me, to be a healthier person and then become a healthiest therapist.
So the other thing is about I'm trying to make a connection about your criminal conviction, and your codependency. So can you explain to me, how,
Well, the codependency, it's a very, it's a childhood disease, I think. I think you're born with it, or you develop it in years in your life. I think it came through the child abuse I went through in a very young childhood, because one part of me felt very special and one part of me felt very dirty. So I had to do things, and doing things so nobody could find out. It shows people, it would tell me, most important, that I'm smarter than the rest of them inside me. So, and I noticed all of that through CODA and therapy and all of the classes I went through, that it was a scream for help, what I did. It wasn't something I would do as a person that I am today. So that's how I could relate it, my codependency, to the actions I did,
So was the theft about, trying to prove that you can do something, or, what is that?
That I could be so smart. I'm smarter, kind of like
sneaky
that.
part you talked
Yes.
about, right?
Yes, because I sure didn't need I was paying. In 1 year, I paid $90,000 to attorneys for my divorce case. It wasn't the $100 or whatever. It wasn't a big deal at that time. But I can reflect back and see where it was coming from.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hi, thanks for coming in. And I appreciate the insight, actually, into what was underlying that. The piece that I'm still, and forgive me if you feel like you've answered this, but I feel like I have to loop back to the question that was asked about if we give you if we reinstate your license and your intern registration, what are you going to do with it? Where are you going to go? What are you going to do? And you really didn't have an answer for that. And so that it's just, I'm having a hard time connecting how important it is to you to get that intern registration, and yet not really having any plan of what you think you might want to do with it, or any goals, or can you talk about that a little?
Sure. Well, first of all, if it wasn't important to me, I wouldn't be here today. I come from Los Angeles. I've been with stomach flu for the last 2 days. I was in the hospital just day before yesterday. No, I'm sorry, yesterday morning. So it's important to me. And I know I can be help or make a difference in young girls' life that's gone through sexual abuse, because I know it will affect their later life relationship. Usually we pick exactly the same person as the abuser, as a husband, or in a relationship. I think I have a lot of insight that relates to my life that I can share with girls that's going through the same thing. I inspired 2 girls in past 2 years that they were in a very abusive relationship, young girls in their 20s, to stand for their rights and try to help them as an aunt. I'm a friend of the family, as an aunt, to take them through court system and stand for their right. I think I can make a difference in a girl's life, and that's my goal. That's my life plan.
And I appreciate I've heard how important it is. The part that I don't hear is what the plan is.
My plan is, maybe that's why I'm not coming very clear. I have very, very, like right plan for what I want to do. I want to get my hours. If this is what I talk to you. I want to get my hours done. I want to sit for my license, all of that. These are all my plans. But then what God plans for me, I don't know. That's what I'm trying to say.
Okay, thank you.
I'm sorry. Good morning, or almost good afternoon. I just have something to clarify. You talk about your experience in 2013 a lot, and it was terrible. But at first, I thought that was your reason why you didn't file a defense for your accusation in 2013. But as it turned out, you didn't even get the notice. So I wonder why you keep mentioning 2013, other than the fact that you know the board, you want the board to know how terrible a year was. I just want to relate the 2013, your experience, into the thing we're talking about today. I mean, why you mentioned 2013 so much?
I think that's when everything came out loose. I think I understand your question, right? Is that you're saying why I'm saying 2013? It's because the incident that happened was in March, I believe in 2013, if you can correct me. I'm not good with dates.
March 2011.
2011, I'm sorry, 2011.
Right.
It's
So
like,
that's why I
I
keep.
think when things started opening up for me was, like, it wasn't right after that. It was a year after that, like between 2010, 2011, 2012, 2013. It was, those years was like the opening of my life.
So what you're saying is that there were a lot of things going on before 2013, but then finally 2013 things,
Yes.
Like everything just came, to the
Correct.
terrible moment, like the perfect storm. Okay, I just want to understand, yeah. Now you mentioned about recovery. Do you mean recovery from codependency, or what do you mean by, you're kind of going through recovery?
It's, I never can say I'm recovered codependent because I'm in the path of recovery. I think when I get recovered is when I die. I have to go to my meetings twice a week to be in that path. And it's such a sneaky disease, not like a substance that I drink alcohol. It's something that I even call it being a good person, being a good mother. And I can go the wrong way without a support of a sponsor. So it's not something that it's tangible that I think wrong. I have a madness talk. If I let my son use, for example, my car, I consider that I'm a good mother. But then am I helping him to get his drugs sooner with my car? That's a different story. So what do you call a good mother? What do you call a bad mother? It's a very sneaky disease. It's not very simple, one way, don't drink, don't use, and you're healthy. It's not like that.
Thank you. Just one final question, because several of us ask you about, what you're going to, in terms of the probational terms. I just want to hear you one more time, because if we're going to put you on probation, very likely the terms would be psychotherapy, and then you still have to get all your hours, and so there are many terms. I just want to hear from you one more time that, kind of like the saying, be careful what you wish for, because, there might be a lot of things, you have to do. I just want to make sure your answer is yes, that you would be able to go through, all those things we require of you.
Yes, well, going to psychotherapy, I already do go once a week, so it's not going to be a problem. And the rest of it, it's, as I said, I'm not employed right now. my husband is supporting me, and I have a lot of time in my hand, even though I go to 2 meetings, and I go to all these different events of self-improvement classes. Tuesday night, it's a introduction every Tuesday for Landmark. You know, I go to all of that, which every time it's a different, it's a class. But I still have a lot of time in my hands still, so it's not like I'm very busy.
Thank you.
Mr. Bryce, any further questions?
Nothing further, Your Honor.
Nothing further than the matter is submitted. Mr. Bryce?
Yes, Your Honor, submitted.
Benai?
Thank you.
Okay, the matter is submitted. The record is closed, and we're off the record. Ms. Benai, before you leave, if you could pick up the sheet from the court reporter before you go. Thank you for coming. Mr. McCollum? Have a seat. Announcing your name, right? McCollum? McCallum?
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you. Before we start, I just want to remind you as well about the microphone. Okay.
Got it. Got it.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, let's go back on the record. We are on the record before the Board of Behavioral Science and the matter of the petition for reinstatement of Kojo McCallum, OAH number 2017-020088, agency number AS-2010-1787. My name is Heather Rowan. I'm an administrative law judge with the Office of Administrative Hearings. I've been assigned to preside over this matter. At the beginning of the meeting this morning, we established that there is a quorum. May I take the appearance of counsel?
Thank you, Your Honor. This is David Bryce with the Attorney General's Office. I'm appearing on behalf of the people of the state of California pursuant to Government Code Section 11522.
Thank you. And Mr. Bryce is present today. Mr. Bryce, you are representing yourself, is that correct?
Yes.
Thank you. As I discussed with you before we went on the record this morning, the Deputy Attorney General will be giving a history of the case, and then you'll have an opportunity to make a statement and answer questions.
Okay.
Mr. Bryce.
Thank you, Your Honor. Before Mr. McCallum starts his testimony, I'd like to first mark for identification and offer into evidence as Exhibit 1, Mr. McCallum's original petition packet with the accompanying documents. The board members and petitioner have been provided with a copy of the same set of this exhibit. And just briefly, I'd like to go through what's contained in Exhibit 1. The first is the petition for reinstatement of registration, which is dated January 3rd, 2017, followed by a personal statement dated January 3rd, 2017. There's several letters of support. There's a packet of documentation from the Commission on Teacher Credentialing, There's a criminal record certification from Alameda County Superior Court. Next is the default decision and order, which is effective November 30th, 2012. That was revoking petitioner's registration. Included with that is accusation number AS 2010-1787. That was filed October 14th, 2011. Finally, there's a notice of today's hearing and a registration history certification. At this time, I'd like to offer this packet into evidence as Exhibit 1.
Thank you. Mr. McCallum, have you had a chance to look at this packet? Do
Yes.
you have any objections to it being admitted as evidence?
No objections.
Exhibit 1 is admitted.
This time, Your Honor, I can provide a brief summary of the petitioner's license history with the board. On or around June 28th, 2007, petitioner was issued Associate Clinical Social Worker Registration Number ASW 21901. License expired on June 30th, 2012 for non-payment of renewal fees, and the license was then revoked effective November 30th, 2012. The circumstances are the petitioner was convicted of the felony of non-sufficient funds check with multiple checks. Petitioner filed a notice of defense but did not appear at the hearing. A default decision and order was then taken. On January 3rd, 2017, petitioner filed his petition for reinstatement of his registration. That concludes the license history. I do have some questions for the petitioner, but Your Honor, I'm prepared to wait a moment if you'd like to have the petitioner proceed with a personal statement.
Thank you. Mr. McCallum, this is your opportunity to give a statement. Will you raise your right hand, please? Do you solemnly swear or affirm, under penalty of perjury, that the testimony you give today will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you, sir. You may go ahead.
Okay, so just a little background of my without taking too long, of my my life story. So I'm originally from New Jersey, born and raised, and when I was born, I was put up for adoption, and so I was a border baby for about 9 months. So pretty much I stayed in the hospital until my grandmother challenged it and got it overturned. And so then my grandmother raised me from the time I was 9 months till I was about 12, and then she gave me back to my mother because my mom became a nurse, and my mom took care of me for about 2 years. It was rough. I lived with different family members, and then she put me in a foster home in New Jersey, and she didn't tell me, like, I didn't know I was going to foster home. I wasn't a bad kid, never been in trouble. It was just, get up, you're going. And in New Jersey, the Council on Social Work Education defines social work as the enhancement of human well-being and the alleviation of poverty and oppression. And the foster home that they placed me in was in the projects in New Brunswick, New Jersey. And I don't know if you guys are familiar with projects, but they're like real tall buildings, and it's like poverty-stricken. But in any event, so I was there for a few years, and then my mother became pregnant with my brother, and she took me out of foster homes because she needed pretty much a babysitter because she went back to work after a week after delivery. So then it was my senior year in high school, and she said, well, if you watch him all summer. So I watched my brother from the time he was a week old till the end of the summer. If you watch him, when school comes, I'll get you some school clothes, things like that. So I watched him. I babysat all summer. At the end of the summer, she gave me $50. So I was determined that I wasn't ever gonna babysit again. So I got a job working in Burger King. I worked all year, graduated high school, and I was gonna go to the. I was pretty smart. I made pretty good grades in high school. I was gonna go to the military because I didn't want to really go to college. And so my cousin, she was in the military, so she called me and said, "Don't go to the military because they promise you things and they promise you certain jobs and you don't always get those jobs. So if you can go to college, go to college." And so this was back in 1989. It was before 9/11. So just for a little background, in my community, the military wasn't necessarily a good thing. It became more popular, unfortunately, after 9/11. So anyway, I went to college with garbage bags and caught the bus. I went to Johnson Wales University in Providence, Rhode Island. Caught the bus there from Newark to the New York Port Authority to Providence. Did really well my first year. Got kicked out the dorm. So they pretty much told me they couldn't academically dismiss me because my grades were too good, but they says I couldn't stay on campus anymore. So that was like a backdoor way of putting me out. Fast forwarded, I ended up at Rutgers. So I went back home, but I didn't have a place to stay, so I applied to Mont, helped me get into Rutgers. So I applied, got into Rutgers. I graduated, bachelor's in sociology. And so when I was a kid, I wanted to be a doctor. So, but I wasn't able to, I couldn't see the light at the end of the tunnel, so I wasn't able to really work. To not work and go to school. So I got a bachelor's, so I ended up getting a master's in social work. And I became a licensed social worker. And then I worked, did hospital social work, orthopedic social work. Then I moved to Baltimore, Maryland. And I was at work, and there was like this glass ceiling. And I didn't like the idea that 10 years from now, I could still be in the same level, making the same amount of money at the same position. And so that didn't appeal to me. So I heard on the radio that they were hiring for teachers, and they were hiring people on the spot. So I called out sick. I was on my way to work. I called out sick, went to this job fair, got hired on the spot. And the rule was, we'll hire you. You go to school. We'll pay for you to go to school, get a second master. So that was always appealing. And all you have to do is agree to give us 5 years, and the loan will be forgiven. So I went to the University of Maryland and taught. And the good thing about that was 2 years you were in school counted towards your 5 years. So technically, after I graduated from University of Maryland, I only had to give 3 more years to Baltimore. And I finished that master's in a year and a half. And fast forward, I moved to California, and I was married. Now, I was married before. When I was in Baltimore, I wasn't necessarily a good husband. And so had two kids. So we got divorced, had to pay child support. Got remarried, moved to California, wanted to start new. Came here with my wife. She was working, all was good, because she was also a teacher. That's how I met her. And she stopped working. And then at this time, child support and IRS was saying you didn't pay enough money because I didn't claim enough deductions. And so one thing led to another. And we bought a house. She stopped working. I was working 2 jobs. I worked for a group home, and then I taught in Hemet. And so we went to the casino because there was nothing to do. Now, prior to coming here, I never gambled, anything like that. I lived in Jersey. Would go to Atlantic City on bus rides, never gambled. So we went, and I gambled, and like the second time we went, my wife and I won $15,000. So unfortunately, that was probably the worst thing that could happen to me, because then I thought that, oh yeah, it's easy. Let's just go win another $15,000, and she'll never have to work. Well, unfortunately, it didn't work out that way, and I got. I'm just giving you background. I got deeper and deeper, and so then it was frustrating, because now I dug a hole so deep that I couldn't get out of it, or I felt like I couldn't see a light into the tunnel. So I'm working, and at this time we had just bought this house, nice house, and the mortgage was like $3,500 a month. So I'm working 2 jobs, and then she stopped working. So now it was more of a stress. So then our marriage started to crumble. So we went to marriage counseling, and he says to me, and I'm almost done. He says to me, so what type of things you like? This is the first session. What type of things you like? I said, I like to work out. I like to travel. I like my wife. And then he looks at her and says, you should leave him, because you should be number one. So I said to him, I said, well, you didn't ask me to prioritize. You just asked me, what do I like? And he said, give me 3 things. I gave him 3 things. So, and then we were talking. I went to the second session, and we were talking, and I guess in his mind, I was digging myself deeper and deeper into a hole. Now, I went to therapy on my wife's, because it's what my wife wanted to do. And then he says, well, nobody's going to cry at your funeral, based on, I guess, that my responses to his answers. So I didn't go back to him again. And so then I started gambling, and then I got myself into this jam with writing these checks, because I said, well, I'll go win some money, and then I'll put the money, and then when I'm done, I'll go to the ATM, put the money back in, and it'll all be good. Well, I didn't win. So then I lost, and then it was, next thing you know, it was all his money. And prior to that, I had never been arrested, never been in trouble with the law. And so now I'm worried, and I realized, well, I got to do something, because I got to be able to work. I got to be able to survive, and maybe there's something bigger going on with me that I just don't know about. And so I went to another therapist, and Dr. Blount, and the court never told me I had to go. They never said you need to go to this. So I went because I really wanted to know, well, maybe I have some unresolved issues from my childhood, because after I left home when I was 17, well, when I was 18, when I graduated high school, I never really spoke to my mother again. Now we speak now, but maybe like 10 years have passed. I didn't speak to her at all. And then when I moved to California, I don't have any family here, so I self-isolated, and I didn't speak to anyone. And so then I started talking to Dr. Blount, and I've been talking to him since March 2010, and I've been going regularly. And now, even now, I go once a week, and because number one, when I do practice social work, I want to be it's almost like teaching me how to be a good therapist. But number two, I just believe everyone needs somebody to talk to. So since then, I don't gamble anymore. I don't drink. I have 2 master's degrees. In August, I'm starting a doctorate in organizational leadership from Brandman University. So I'm starting there in August. It was funny because I knew I needed to come here, but I was praying. I said, man, I can't really afford, because I came from Palm Springs. I can't really afford to come here twice, but I just need to get this license back, because I didn't go to school. I need to get this thing. I didn't go to school to have it sit there, and there's a conference in San Jose called the Equity and Human Rights Conference. So I'm a teacher. I've been teaching 17 years, and so now I'm really active. I hold an elected position with the California Teachers Association. I'm really active. I'm the minority at large. In my local school district, I'm the grievance chair. So if any teacher have a problem, I handle all the grievances for my school district. But this mistake has caused so much harm to my career, my reputation. So the California Teachers Association, the Commission on Teacher Credentialing, they found out about it because I didn't disclose, because I didn't think it was relevant. So I just didn't disclose, because to me it was embarrassing. So I didn't disclose. So they found out about it, and so I went to that meeting. I came to Sacramento, and then I sat before a board and told them, what happened. I ain't go into detail about my childhood, but I told them what happened, and so they ended up suspending my credential for 30 days, and which means I couldn't teach for 30 days. And then they notified my school district. So then the superintendent called me in, and it was embarrassing. And then the school district I work at is not really ethnically diverse. And at the time, I was teaching first grade. I'm a sixth grade teacher now, and so I have more status in the school district. But I was a first grade teacher, and parents would just decide to background check me. So a parent found out that I had this. It's listed as grand theft. So like I robbed the bank. Now I'm not minimizing anything, And so this parent didn't want a kid in my classroom and then went a step further and put flyers all over the school. So, number one, I was punished for it because my teaching credential was suspended, but then I was humiliated. And, but because I was doing good things in the school district, and I still am the superintendent, which he didn't have to do because he's the one who hired me, he stood behind me because he could have let me go for moral turpitude and all these other things that technically I violated. But he stayed behind me. So and now I don't gamble. It's the worst mistake ever. I'm a school teacher. I do pretty well where I am, and like I said, I've been teaching 17 years. And so my goal was to do both. My goal is to do both. So if it's I've done hospice, social work, and so it's funny because I was married, and so I was telling my aunt, and so now I go to church. I just try to keep myself busy. I was telling my aunt, I said, man, whenever I try to build relationships. So I said, whenever I get into these personal relationships for whatever reason, they don't seem to work, which is why I still go to Dr. Blount to this day. I said, but the only thing I'm good at is working in school. And so when I work, I've been working since I was 12. But so the only thing I'm good at is working in school. So this is why I want to get it back and not just have it sitting there stagnant. And just to say why I didn't respond to the default, the no-show, was because someone called me. I received I believe the meeting was in San Diego, and someone and the gentleman from the office called me and said, and so we were talking, and I really didn't want to take another day off, but if it was going to hurt me, I would have gone to present the same way I came to Sacramento to present for the Commission on Teacher Credentialing. And he said, well, no, we already have the package, so we know what's going on, so it's okay. And then I didn't go.
Excuse me, can you slow down just a little bit?
Okay.
You're getting really fast.
Okay.
Thank you.
So a gentleman from the office called me and said, we already have the package, we already know the information, so you don't really have to come. It's up to you. And I didn't know it was going to hurt me. So when it's time to renew in 2012, it was no, and I realized that they were just going to suspend me anyway. Then it was no reason to renew. So, but had I have known that a decision without me that would have negatively affected me, I would have gone to the meeting. And that's it. I know that's a lot. That's it.
Mr. Bryce, do you have any further questions before the board?
I do have a few questions, Your Honor. Mr. McCallum, do you have any criminal convictions that the board is not aware of?
No.
And are there any current criminal charges pending against you in the state or any other?
No.
Regarding the criminal conviction, did you successfully comply with the terms of that sentence?
I did.
I noticed in the file that there was $10,310.74 was the, I guess, missing amount from the bank account. Did you pay that in restitution?
Yes, I did.
And is it fully paid as you sit here today?
Yes, it is.
I just want to remind you to speak into your microphone.
Oh, yes,
Thank
it
you.
is. Yes.
And tell me again what your current employer is
Morongo Unified School District,
and what's your job title
6th grade teacher.
and what subject do you teach in 6th grade?
It's an elementary school, so it's all subjects. My school district is K6, and middle school is 7th, 8th. So, and it's still considered elementary school, so it's all subjects except PE.
I want to ask you a little bit more. You explained right there at the end of your testimony about the circumstances that led to the default decision in this case where you didn't appear at the hearing.
Yes.
You did have notice of the hearing, correct?
Yes, I did have notice of the hearing, but someone from the office also contacted me, and when I spoke to the gentleman on the phone, he, because I was asking questions, because I didn't want to, take a day off if I didn't have to, And he said, oh, it's not really necessary, and that's what I got from the conversation. But yes, I did receive hearing, a notice.
And you also, if you filed a notice of defense, then you would have received the accusation packet, right?
Yes,
And so you were aware that your license was at risk in the proceeding, right?
yes, I was aware of that.
But based on this phone call, do you remember the person's name who called you?
Starts with a B, and I thought, I meant to bring the packet, but, I don't remember the, person's name, but I do remember, Kamala Harris' name was on the paper, and then it was like a law firm. I want to think Buell, but I don't remember offhand because I didn't bring it with me.
And is your testimony that that person told you you did not need to appear?
It's my testimony that they said it's not a big deal one way or another because we already have the information.
And so based on that phone call, ignoring the paperwork and ignoring the notice of hearing, you decided not to appear?
Oh, well, that's misleading. I didn't ignore the paperwork, but I decided that if they already have the paperwork, then it was not necessary for me to come based on his conversation because I would have come. So I mean, at the time I was living in Palm Springs, and if I can come here, which is 8 hours away, I definitely would have went to San Diego, because that's where the hearing was set, which is an hour and a half away, and it would have just been a day trip. So and in the same vein, the Commission on Teacher Credentialing also had a hearing, and I came to Sacramento. So I would have come. I wouldn't have taken it lightly. Now I'm in a better state now in 2017 than I was back then because I'm more mature, I'm older, and I have a 1.5-year-old daughter now, and so I'm just trying to be a better person, and I want people to cry at my funeral.
I'd like to ask you, did you receive notice of the board's decision on the default that revoked your license?
I did receive notice, yes.
Did you consider filing a petition for reconsideration?
No, because at that time I was frustrated, and then I was embarrassed and humiliated, and so to me it was embarrassing enough that I had to come to Sacramento and state my case in front of a room full of strangers and tell them all the stuff. And so at that point, I didn't want to go through that again. Now this is many years later. I've been going to church, and I've been, I like to listen to Joel Osteen and stuff like that. And so I've decided that it's not who people think I am, and the person that you see in that paper, and the person that's in here, that's not who I am today. Unfortunately, that's all what we have to go on. So even when I talk about my ex-wife, the mother of my two kids, sometimes we get along, but you wonder how come sometimes she'll make certain comments, and that's because she can only remember how I was back then. She doesn't remember how I am today. And so, but
Well, I guess my question, Mr. McCallum, is you've stated that you were told by someone that you didn't need to appear at this hearing because you didn't think that your license anything was going to happen to your license. And then when you got notification that it was revoked, you did nothing until now, 5 years later, you're petitioning for reinstatement, which is all right, but I just want to make sure that there's something I'm missing there, and I don't really understand why you didn't take action at the time if you were notified that your license was revoked.
Okay, let me fill in the blanks, because I believe I gave a statement, and so the same way I gave a statement today, so I believe I gave a statement explaining the offense back then. So if they had a statement, and then I spoke to a representative from the office who said, well, you can come or not come, then it's up to you. So I decided not to. And then when the license was already revoked or suspended, I decided, well, the decision was made, and so I didn't do anything. And so sometimes weird stuff happens. So when even when I got here last night, and I flew in, and then from here I go to San Jose to this conference that I have to go to. But I flew in last night, and I get to the rental car counter, and they don't want to rent me this car. And I'm like, you know, I already have reservations. And they said, well, you have a, they wanted a credit card. I left the credit card at home, so I just have my debit card, you know, and I'm like, man, what am I gonna do? So I'm sitting in this rental car place for like an hour, just sitting there. And I went from counter to counter. Finally, someone rented me a car. So I was like, well, if I don't go, then what happens? And this is what I'm thinking. I said, well, can I catch a cab to, because I flew into San Jose. I said, can I catch a cab to San Francisco? How far, Sacramento, how far is that? And I was actually, they said, well, it's about 2 hours. Long story short, I was able to rent the car at midnight and I got here. So things happen. However, once the license was suspended already, I already had another job. So if that was my only job, then probably I would have applied to have it reinstated. But the reason why I'm doing it now is because I went to school for a long time. I've been through a lot in my life, and I want it. And plus, I like to use it because I believe I'm an asset.
I noticed on your license history that your registration expired June 30th, 2012 due to non-payment of renewal fees. Can you explain to the board why you didn't pay your renewal fees?
Well, yeah, I explained that earlier. So the reason why I didn't pay the renewal fees was because they were going. It was my understanding that my license was going to be suspended anyway. So if I would have paid, let's say the $75 or whatever the fee was, if I would have paid the fees, then and it wouldn't have changed the outcome, then it wouldn't have made any sense. And at that time, when my license was expiring, I was working for Vitas Hospice. So I was a hospice social worker, and I liked it because we used to I was being called, and we would go into people who are dying, and we provide social work services. So at that time I liked it. So this having my license expire and me understanding that I wasn't going to be able to renew it, so I paid a fee. That had an adverse effect because that was a job that I actually liked. So this gambling thing has been devastating in more ways than one.
There is cost recovery associated with that default decision in the amount of $8,080. If your registration were reinstated, would you be able to pay that outstanding cost recovery?
I will be able to pay it over time, but I do have a question about that. I was talking to Dr. Brown about that last week because I looked at that figure, and I'm not sure how because that seems like a hefty fee for it seems like a hefty fee. Would you say $8,000?
$8,080.
Yeah, that seems like a hefty fee. So I don't know how you guys came up with that figure. And I'm not being combative, but it seems like a hefty fee.
That's the cost recovery associated with the cost of prosecution investigation that would have been assessed at the hearing in the case. And I don't actually have any of those exhibits today to explain why. But that's what the number is. It's under Business and Professions Code Section 125.3.
I understand. So yeah, I will be able to pay it over time. So
finally, before I'll turn it over to the board, as you sit here today, you talked a lot about your history, and you're currently employed as a teacher. Can you explain why you would like your registration reinstated and what your plans are for the future if it is reinstated?
Okay. So my plans for the future is to, once my registration, or if it's reinstated, to obtain another job, a part-time job, because so teachers, we don't work over the summer, and so when I was in New Jersey, I probably had like 3 jobs, and when I was in Baltimore, it was real easy to find me weekend jobs, and so when I moved to California, I was like, wow, it's kind of, and I lived in Temecula at first. I said, it's different here. You know, I was telling my wife at the time, I'm trying to find a second job, and even part-time jobs, there's nothing on weekends. So when I finally found hospice, and they allowed me to be on call and to work evenings and weekends, you know, that's what I really enjoyed. So my plans is to find another job so that I can pay down the IRS more rapidly. Also, I've been working since I was 12 years old. My first job, I worked at a Dunkin' Donuts in New Jersey. So one thing that I do well is I work well and I do school well. So my plans, if it's reinstated, is to obtain another position, and that way that'll help me to pay down that $8,000 that you guys are billing.
Your Honor, at this time, I don't have any further questions, and I turned over any questions from board members.
Thank you. Before you go on, did you have witnesses or documents that you wanted to produce?
Oh no, the document was just from the therapist, and this gentleman showed me that they already had a copy of it, and I just want the board to know. I just want the board to keep in mind that although this stuff happened back in 2009, this is 2017. I was not court ordered to go to therapy, and in 2017, I still go. I go on my own because people need somebody to talk to, and it's therapeutic. I go there. I talk about work. I talk about my personal life. We talk about all types of things. So it's been 7 years, 8 years if you count the first guy I went to, and also after the first, just one more thing. After the first guy I went to, who said no one was gonna die at my funeral, and I stopped going to him. So I went to Gamblers Anonymous. So I went to Gamblers Anonymous, and in Palm Springs, and I went to like 3 sessions, and I didn't get anything out of it, specifically because it was like, hi, my name is Kojo, and I'm an addict. And then you tell about, I didn't gamble today. And then that was it. And then it's on to the next person. So I guess my impression when I first went to Gamblers Anonymous was that I would say something and somebody would tell me what my problem was. And it didn't work that way. So I didn't get anything out of that. And then I found Dr. Blount, and we connected, and I've been going to him ever since, which is and he handles the gambling issue as well, but he also handles the issue with my mom, and because my grandmother passed away, and to this day I speak to my mother, and I said, I forgive you. You can't expect someone to apologize for something that happened 40 years ago. I'm 45, I'll be 46. So and for my personal benefit, it helps me to move on, helps her to save face, and I'm a better person for it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Thanks
Good
for
afternoon.
being here. I'm sorry, I didn't quite catch the name of the therapist. Are you talking about Dr. Blount?
Yeah, Dr. Blount. He's out of
Yeah.
Palm Springs.
Right, okay, thank you. Now, when you look back, do you consider yourself a compulsive gambler in the past?
When I was under the spell in the trance, it's like just didn't know when to stop. It was never enough. So even if I would go, so after I won the 15,000, if I would go, and let's say I go again 2 weeks later, and I won 1,000, then I didn't get up because I said, well, maybe I can flip this 1,000 into 2,000. Or if I went there and it was just a bad day and I lost 300 or I lost 500, then I would gamble to try to make that up, and then I dug myself deeper and deeper into a hole. So I guess at that time I was a compulsive gambler.
So when you talk to Dr. Blanc for this kind of problem, what is the final resolution? Did you both think that you overcome that problem? Because in the letter, he stated that you were never at any time to be unfit to function as a therapist, or so both of you confident that it won't be a problem in the future? I guess that's what I'm asking.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Because so one thing that I try not to let let my personal, and I'm in no way am I perfect, but I try not to let my personal life affect my work history. So when the school district found out about it, I was humiliated. But then I say, okay, well, it's between me and the superintendent. And then when his parent found out and put flyers over the school and passed them out outside that Kojo McCallum is this thief, and it was humiliating. So at that time, the gambling didn't necessarily didn't have an impact on my work life or my ability to practice social work, because I would gamble. Like, I would gamble if, let's say, I would get off work at school, and then I would go get off at 3:30, go to casino and gamble, and I can gamble all night. My school starts at 9. The teacher has to be there at 9. I would gamble till 8, so I would gamble all night and then go back to work. So win or lose. So even if I was there all night gambling, I'm not making excuses, but even if I was there all night gambling, I would still get up and go to work, which is why it didn't have an effect on my teaching life. And then as far as my social work life, when I worked for hospice, it was part-time, and it was weekends and evenings, and I didn't let that affect my my work.
I guess the same question been asked previously, but I just want to ask it one more time, if you don't mind. That is, as you know, we keep saying our job is to protect the public. So you have to give us assurance in order for us to consider, doing the, to give you back your license. That is, what kind of assurance you can give us that it won't happen again. Even though it might not affect, your teaching and stuff, but what's that prevent you to write another bad check, and that would affect, your function and duty or whatever as a therapist. So please, assure us that that kind of thing won't happen again.
Absolutely. So one assurance is, I had never done anything before then, so I had never been in trouble before then, and I haven't done anything after that. And one of the rules of the court was that I couldn't have I couldn't possess any other checks unless they were my own. So for a while, I didn't even have a check. I didn't even have a checking account. And then I would get a prepaid card, and I would have my checks, both from hospice and from the school district, deposited on a prepaid card, and they have all these astronomical fees. So then it was only like 2 years ago that I got another bank account. So now I do have a checking account, but I don't have any checks. Not because I think I don't have any control, but I don't have any checks because nowadays everything is done online, and so everything comes directly out. But just to reassure you, I haven't done anything before then, and I haven't done anything after that either.
I'm sorry, I don't want to belay the point. Let me ask you another way. Will you gamble again, ever?
No, I won't gamble. Well, let me put it like this: I won't gamble in the casino ever again, because it has had devastating. It's been devastating on my life, and like to me, it's just embarrassing just sitting up here. Here I got 2 masters, going for a doctorate, and I have to sit here, and I don't want to say beg. So no. So even at my job, because some things I've heard from Gamblers Anonymous, the 3 sessions that I went to, it still stuck with me. So even at my job, we have a football pool. I don't participate in the football pool. Now I used to, so I would say, well, I won't go to the casino, but I'll still do the football pool. Or if some teachers decide to have poker night, I'll go play poker. So now I don't do any of those things. And even back then, when they have Powerball lotteries, I would say, and this was the rationale. Well, I won't gamble, but I'll go buy me a lottery ticket. But now, in 2017, 2016, 2015, I don't gamble at all because it's just been devastating.
Thank you very much. I know it's not easy to come here.
Oh, no, you're welcome. Thank you.
Hi.
Hi.
I want to make this very quick. Nothing's been said about this so far, and because we are here to protect the public, I just feel like I have to ask you about it. I'm looking at the findings of the Committee of Credentials for the Commission on Teacher Credentials.
Yes.
I'm looking at their information, page 2 at the bottom. right above the section failure to disclose.
Okay.
And they're talking about when the officer talked to your wife in 2008, which
Okay.
admittedly was a long time ago.
Yes.
At that time, she said she felt you had a drinking problem, and so I just was wanting to ask you about that, why she might have said that.
Oh, excuse me.
That's okay, go ahead.
I can understand why she would say that, and so now I don't drink at all. But so when she met me, so we met in 2000. All I did was work because I was in Baltimore at the time, and I was a teacher, and I worked 3 jobs. I worked for the school system, and I worked 2 social work jobs, and so all I did was work, and then I worked out in the gym. So when she met me, I didn't drink, and she probably liked that about me because she didn't drink either. So then we moved to, so then slowly but surely, I would go to her brother drink, and then I would take a beer. And then by the time we moved to California, now there's beer in the refrigerator. So I didn't hang out at bars, but then I would come home and then I would drink, like beer. But I didn't drink and drive, so I wasn't reckless, so I've never had a DUI. But I can understand why she would say that, because when we met, I didn't drink at all, and then I started drinking. But at home, because it was hot, it was California, and I just started drinking. But now I don't drink because it's just, I try to have my body look a certain way, and it's just counterproductive to my goals. So I don't drink.
Fattening.
Yeah.
When's the
But-
last
oh,
time-
and because it's fattening, then I found out. So I can understand why she would say that. I found out that Miller Lite has the lowest amount of calories. So now I would just drink Miller Lite. But now I don't drink at all.
Okay. One more question?
Yes.
When's the last time you saw Gordon, Dr. Blount?
I saw Dr. Blount. So he went 3 weeks ago. So he went on vacation because he went to because his wife is ill. So he took her on vacation, and they went to like Switzerland or somewhere. They went on a cruise, but they flew to England. They went on a cruise, and so I'm scheduled to see him on Tuesday. So I saw him 3 weeks ago Tuesday. So if you go to Tuesday and count back 3 weeks ago, I saw him that Tuesday.
So at this point, you're seeing him regularly. The reason I ask is because in his letter, he said you were seeing him intermittently, so.
No, yeah, I see him regularly. There was a time where he would say, well, so I would go see him for years, and then we get to the point where there's nothing to talk about and then I'm saying, well, how's your wife? So then we talking about stuff like that. So then he would say, well, okay, then you're good. And so then then I wouldn't see him for like a month, or maybe even 2 months, and then something would happen in my family, or my nephew died. He was in a car crash in Ohio, and because I don't have no family in California, it's somebody to talk to. So I would call him up, and then he would squeeze me in. But he told me before I was coming here that if you get your license back, then you can work in my office, because I was like, so the devastating effect that this gambling has had on me and has given me a felony. So people say, well, how come you don't go to another school district? How come you don't do that? Because places background check you, and people only realize what you were. They don't realize what you are today. So the effect that it has on me. So even getting the registration back doesn't guarantee that I'll be able to get a job. One thing I've learned is that you still have to disclose, because not disclosing is just lying. But so now I'll go back to hospice or wherever and disclose, yeah, well, this is what I was doing, and risk not being able to get another job, because again, people realize what you were and not what you are today.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So you've, just listening to your story is pretty compelling. I mean, you've had a lot of stuff go on. And you've talked about the humiliation and the embarrassment. But I haven't really heard you say anything about anger. And just listening to your life story, it kind of makes me wonder if that's got to be there somewhere. And have you worked with Dr. Blount to kind of work that around?
Well, yeah, I mean, I was angry at a lot of things. One thing he said is that everything is that every person every person in my life that I've ever cared about has left me. So I guess I have this little thing, you know, they say little kids have for their moms or little boys have for their moms. And so she puts me in for adoption. And then I was so thrilled that my grandmother, when my grandmother gave me back, because you get to live with your mother, because I never knew my father as a kid. I met my father when I was 23. So, so then she goes and put me in a foster home. So then I was like, maybe I felt like I hated her then, because so I didn't speak to her for years. But I was raised that, you know, you respect your elders, and the Bible says honor your mother and your father. So so when I said I didn't like her, I wasn't rude to her. I didn't be mean to her. If I saw her within those 10 years, I said hi and gave her a hug. But she knew how I felt because I didn't call her, and I didn't come around. But when I got married, I invited her to the wedding. So I was angry about that, and then I got married a third time. So this is the humiliation part. I got married a third time. I got married September 20. My daughter was born June 4th, 2015. I had said I was never ever gonna get married again. So I got married again. So this is my third time. Now I have 5 kids now. So she got pregnant. She was 40, and she was into the church. She was humiliated that she was pregnant at 40, and she had never been married before. And here I come, and then I disclose everything to her. I tell her about my history, my foster home, me being married, how much I owe the IRS. I told her everything. 11 months, we bought a house in July. So things were turning around. On September 4th, she leaves me. So now I'm going through a divorce. So I have to go to court April 3rd to handle this divorce thing. And we go to court. The judge allows me to stay in the house. But I decided yesterday when I came here that I'm tired of fighting with her, so I'm not going to stay in the house anymore. So yesterday I got an apartment in Palm Springs, but I had to come here, so I signed the lease, paid the money, and technically I move in on Monday because I don't want to, if I'm going to be gone for 5 days, you know. So I was angry about that because I disclosed to her everything, and I wasn't abusive to her. I wasn't mean to her. I was a much better husband this time than I was before, and she still left. One thing I do recognize is that I'm the common denominator in all these relationships, but when I spoke to Dr. Blount about that, because it's been 6 months now, he said, well, I don't know, maybe it's not you. So she left because, you know, I make, in the school system, I have 2 master's degrees, so they pay you based on your education. I almost have 3 because I went to Johns Hopkins and I got a principal certification. So my ultimate goal was to be like a superintendent. And so I get paid, I'm already on the pay scale and I'm already down. So I make, just in the school system alone, around $90,000. And I don't work in the summertime. So that's pretty good. So that tells you why I don't do social work full time, because I make more teaching and I have the summers off. But I was angry about that. But I decided on March 1st that I wasn't gonna be angry, that I wasn't gonna fight over this house. So I decided to let her have the house. So when we go to court on April 3rd to finalize things, it's like, listen, you wanted the divorce, you got it. You wanted the house, you got it. But we went to court, the judge gave me 50-50 custody. So I had my daughter Wednesday night, which she didn't want. I had my daughter Wednesday night at 7 p.m. to Sunday at 7. And I get my child care and stuff like that, and now it's just me. So, because the good thing about it is the judge sees who I am, not who I was, because she tried to bring this in court. And then now you got to explain this in a court full of people. But we went to a mediator, and they still gave me, they still gave me 50-50 custody. And but yeah, I was angry. So Dr. Blau and I, we talk about that. And then when I hear Joel Osteen, it says it's not who people say you are, it's who God says you are. So my goal is to. She would ask me, "Are you ever gonna get married again?" And then my answer was no. But then I realized that if I want to live, because my grandmother raised me, she was a minister, and if I want to live right in the eyes of God, if you believe in God, if I want to live right, then it's like you got to do everything right. So in order to live right in the eyes of God, then at some point I hope to get married again. But my goal, when I pray, is to restore our relationship, and my goal is to work on me, which is why I still go to Dr. Blount. And so that's why that's my goal. So do I have anger? I try to let it go. And but at this point, am I angry at my soon-to-be ex-wife? I'm angry at her because I told everything. And this is the first relationship that I've ever had that I've disclosed. And she still left. So we work on that.
So I do think you've probably got still some work on that, so that might be something to look to. But the last thing I just want to leave kind of a comment is, you talked about being able to disconnect your personal life, about gambling all night, still being able to go to school and keeping it together. And I guess I have a concern because as a therapist, you can't do that. You have to be genuine, and you have to have your own stuff sorted. So do you have plans to kind of move along that path?
I'm sorry. I'm trying to
So
follow you.
you can't disconnect,
Okay.
can't do it and be a good therapist.
Um,
Part of if you can reflect back on when you were getting supervision,
Yes.
that's part of that process of supervision is kind of dealing with your own stuff so that you can be genuine for other people. So,
Well, and that's why I'll continue to work on myself. And one thing I learned when I was in grad school is to do self-assessments, and which is why I'm always trying to figure out where did I go wrong, or so even in this even in my current soon to be this current marriage that's ending, even though Dr. Blount would say, well, hold on, don't punish yourself because you didn't do anything wrong. I still try to write down the things. Well, maybe I could have done this right. I could have done that. So I'm always working on myself to try to evolve because I want to be the best person possible. And although I didn't go back to that therapist who said nobody was going to cry at my funeral, I still think about that. So I'm not telling you guys this story to give people a sob story. I just want people to know where I come from. Because when I go to work, I wear a suit and ties every day, and it's rare in California that teachers dress like that. And sometimes when I go see Dr. Blount, he says, "Hey, the sharpest dressed guy I know," and then I saw it's all cosmetic. So one thing I told my aunt when I was going through this thing with my last wife is I want my inside to match my outside, which is why I still go to see Dr. Blount. So I want how I feel as a person inside. I mean, outside, because outside I can smile and think I look okay, but on the inside, I want to feel the same way on the inside, and so that's why I continue to go see him. So the answer to your question is yes. I'm a work in progress. I'm not perfect, but I'm better than I was here.
all right, thank you.
So exactly how many years that you have been gambling, or you gambled?
I gambled. So I moved to California in 2006, and I was in Temecula. So from 2 years, from 2007, because I didn't gamble when I first got here, from 2007 until the time I got in trouble, because that was a wake-up call, because then I thought I was going to go to jail, and I thought I was going to not be able to work at all, ever. And then all these things started flashing back that, because my sister was in the same situation that I was in, and she ended up dropping out of school. And so to this day, she's old. She's a year and a half older than me. So she's 48. So to this day, she still doesn't have a high school diploma. And here I have 2
Alan,
masters. Yeah.
I just want you to think about the question
Okay.
and answer her question.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay.
So what's the question?
So the question is how many years that you have gambled? So you started at 2006 when you moved to California.
No, 2007.
2007.
Yeah, the first year I didn't. Yeah.
So that's when you start gambling?
Yes.
Okay. So when did you stop? The year?
After I was arrested. So that was whenever I was arrested, I think it was 2009.
Okay. So a couple years?
Yes, 2 years.
So how often, how many days you go gambling?
Well, it was only when I got paid, so it was like every 2 weeks.
Once every 2 weeks?
Yeah. So it would be like once every 2 weeks, yes.
Okay. So normally, do you gamble during the school nights or weekend?
Well, it would be it'd be any night. You know, sometimes I would go to the gym, and then after the gym, I would go gamble. But it was because I had 2 jobs, I would use my school check. This was my rationale. I would use my school check to give it to my wife and let her handle the household stuff, and then use my check that I was working at that time. I was working in the group home. Use that check to do whatever I wanted to do with it. So I used that to gamble. It was when it got out of hand that I started using the school check as well.
So I was a little bit concerned when you said that you would be, say like starting gambling 8 o'clock at night until 8 o'clock in the morning and go to school, and it's as if nothing happened, and it worked for you for a while. I was a little concerned because when did you sleep?
I would sleep, so then I would go to work, and then I would be tired, but I would drink some coffee, and then I work all day, and if there was a parent meeting at school or a committee I was involved in, I would do that, and then when I was done, I would go home. So I would skip the gym that night because I can't work out tired, and then I would sleep the next night, and then I would sleep all night.
I see, okay. So do you think that, that sort of sleeping pattern and, going to gambling at night, do you think that it affects your students?
No, because when I was gambling, I was teacher of the year. I was teacher of the year twice, and when I was gambling, it didn't affect my my performance because I got this rush of adrenaline. So during the time that I was gambling, I was teacher of the year. I was teacher of the year once in Baltimore, and once when I moved to California.
So let me just make sure that I heard you clearly. So, so the answer is no, there's no effect on your students. Would you think that it would be better if would you be a better teacher, connect with the student better if you have a more regular schedule, or maybe, have a healthier lifestyle? Say like regular sleep, regular, dinner time, wake up in the morning, don't skip gym, and what do you think? Do you think the quality of the teaching will be better?
Well, I'm sure anything could be better if you live a perfect lifestyle. But I didn't live a perfect lifestyle. Probably a lot of people didn't. So in the good world, yeah, it maybe my students could have been better served had I not gambled. However, I still managed to be teacher of the year one of those years and runner-up another year, and you live and you learn. So now my students love me, but even being here today, it has an effect on my students because now they have a sub, because I'm also the district spelling bee coordinator. So yesterday we had a spelling bee for the district. So I was out of the class yesterday, and now I'm out of class today because I had to be here. And then Thursday and Friday was already scheduled because that's a CTA event. So 4 days this week. So yeah, they're affected, but I try to make it up to them.
Okay. So my last question, hopefully you can give me a very brief answer.
Sure.
When you look back to your gambling, what purpose do you feel that it served in your life at that point, that couple years?
Okay. So,
I just want to hear some insights.
yeah, in 2007, 2008, 2009, I thought it served the purpose because if I hit the jackpot, then I could pay then I could pay the IRS off, and that's one less bill I had to worry about. In 2017, it served no purpose. because I don't have that money. I don't have a house anymore. It's been devastating, and I have to sit here and explain.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Mr. Bryce, do you have any further questions?
Nothing further, Your Honor.
If there is nothing further, then the matter is submitted. Mr. Bryce?
Yes, submitted, Your Honor.
Ellen?
I'm good.
Okay,
I'm sorry it took so long. I wanted to get background, so that's why.
we appreciate it. The record is closed, and we are off the record. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. McCallum, before you leave, if you could check in with the court reporter and pick up the billing sheet.
Sure.
Okay, thank you. And thank you for coming.
It is 1:09. We will be going into closed session as soon as the room is cleared. Public comment, this is the time for public comments for items not on the agenda. Is there anyone who would like to comment? Any suggestions for future agenda items? Members of the board? Okay, we will now adjourn to, well, I think, I want to take a little bit of a break first. So how about a